My name is Stephen Anderson. I am now the current owner of Halifax Pharmacy and Halifax LTC Pharmacy. In my building, there are two pharmacies. There's a retail pharmacy and a long-term care. The long-term care provides services to patients that are either in a facility or that one of the clientele we're trying to market to is if mom and dad live in Halifax and you live outside of the area and you're coming back once a week, once a month to package their medications, we think it would be easier for us to take care of it and for us to package their meds and keep them organized and for you to spend quality time with your family versus packaging meds. So that's one of the things we're pushing towards in our long-term care. It's a closed door pharmacy, so not a lot of people see it unless you're an employee, pretty much. But I purchased a pharmacy last September, so I have had it under my reins for about a year now. And so I'm just going to share kind of the things that I have learned along the way in the last year, dealing with COVID, dealing not with COVID, just in general ownership. And let's take my journey. I appreciate you guys allowing me to speak today. I'm humbled by it. Let's get started. Background about me: I was born and raised here in South Boston, graduated from Halifax County in '98. I went to Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond with my wife. We both graduated in '02 with a BS in biology. Graduated from School of Pharmacy in 2010. That's a big difference. If you're quick at math, you're like, that's 8 years. It doesn't take eight years to do that. I was just very slow at what I was doing. And so after graduation, I started as a consultant pharmacist, which, to give you a brief description of it, the government requires that all patients inside of nursing facilities have their medications reviewed at least once a month. This review consists of making sure there are no interactions, proper dosing, proper regimen, and making sure that people aren't overly medicated. I very much enjoyed that job when I did it. It allowed me to build a rapport with the medical staff there. I love chatting with the doctors. My favorite portion was chatting with the nursing staff. You could find out more from a nurse in 5 minutes than you could from reading the chart for 4 hours. It was utterly amazing. While I was doing that, I moonlighted for Johnny here at Halifax Pharmacy. I worked one Saturday and a couple of days during the week if he needed me. I saw the correlation between having that personal connection in the facilities and being able to get the best outcome for my patients, transition over to independent pharmacy. With independent, we are more concerned, at least at my pharmacy, we're more concerned with your outcome and how you're doing than making a profit off of you. So if I can make you feel better by telling you to take this differently, or let's try exercise versus this, that's what I try to do. So I completed the pharmacy purchase in September of last year, right in the very middle of the COVID pandemic. So it has been an adventure, for lack of better ways of putting it. My family is my driving force behind everything. Here is myself, my wife, Missy, my son, Kale, and my daughter, Lola. They are my driving force, and they kind of keep me grounded and remember what's important. Life as a business owner. I was under the impression pre-purchase that I would come in here as soon as I got the keys to the door and my name was signed on everything, that there would be this divine light that would come from the heavens and I would know how to handle everything. And that was not the case. Pictured here is my son receiving his wand at the Harry Potter theme park down in Universal. And I thought it was very representative of how I thought it was going to be. Here's the keys, everything will work out, run for it. So the most important thing that I learned was you have to have the proper resources. Otherwise, you're going to go down pathways that may be a waste of time, may not be efficient, and could be very costly. And I learned, don't try to reinvent the wheel. There are other people that have come before you. Learn from their experience. And that was something that has been very humbling when someone will tell you, I tried that 30 years ago, it didn't work. Oh, okay. Well, thank you. And it just, that helped a lot. Um, my top 5 resources that I pulled from this past year and through the purchase transition are listed here. I would start out with peers, mentors, and employees. I consider my employees my peers. We're all on the same playing field here. We're all on the same level. I am lucky that when I purchased the pharmacy from Johnny, all the employees stayed. Some have reached retirement age in the last year, so they're retired. I don't blame them, but we've been very lucky with that. My spouse, legal advice, financial advice, and other providers. These are the top 5 things. There's a million more resources, but these are the ones that I utilize the most. Concerning peers, mentors, and employees. When I was in pharmacy school, they taught us everything you could think of about medicine. And I've known very few people, with the exception of one guy that had a photographic memory, that could remember everything they taught you. But they did teach us that, hey, it's not wrong not to know everything, but just know you have the resources to go and look at. I pulled that mindset over into the business aspect. There's no way as a new business owner, I know everything. So I'm going to reach out and get the resources and seek the resources I think that would help. With the purchase process and with the daily procedures in and out, I reach out to other independent pharmacies in the country, in the state, and say, hey, what are you guys doing? How are you doing this? How are you handling this? It's nice to hear how other people are doing things, to see if you are on the right track or if you're just not making where you need to be. I learned very early on that I am not a one-man team. I don't know it all. And I am lucky enough to have employees that have been with the company for 25, 30 years. And that's a lot of knowledge. That's a lot of experience that if you're willing to ask for help and say, hey, have we done this before? Will this work? You would be surprised what that does. It not only gives you information you may not have known, but it allows that employee to feel more empowered, and more empowerment becomes more responsibility. They become more of a team player. And I feel that as I ask them, hey, how would you handle this? Or are we doing this the most efficient way you can think of? How can we better serve our patients? And instead of being a dictator and saying, this is what we're going to do, this is how you're going to do it, I think it's better absorbed and we're able to implement things better. Experience, as I was saying, is a great teacher. You need to learn from it, whether it's from your experience or someone else's. We try to keep an open forum here at the pharmacy. So if an employee comes to me and says, Stephen, I just don't think this is working. Good. Thank you for telling me. How should we improve on it? What should we do different? And I am always open. Let's do this. And that's the biggest thing. Another thing I learned is I have peers that have been doing this again I have one pharmacy owner that's owned a pharmacy for 40 years. And he said, Stephen, you need to make sure you transition in this day and time to a more electronic platform. Make sure you're out there on social media. It's one of the quickest ways to get information out there. And that was I would say, I consider myself young until I had, my 41st birthday. And I'm like, well, I'm not young anymore. And then my kids are showing me things on their iPads I never knew existed. So seeing that the social media is much more involved with the younger generation, it was a good thing to know. And I reached out and I had a peer introduce me to a firm that handles my social media, and it allows me to get the information out there in a very logical way, a very streamlined, and I just can't stress the importance of that. My second resource, and these are just the way I put them in the slides, but is my wife, Missy. She graduated pharmacy school in 2007, same school. She's been a pharmacist longer than me, and I would probably argue that she's a better pharmacist than I am. I say that without her being in the room. But the reason that she's so important to me is she helps with the pharmacy, but she's not in the building every day. So she's got an outside the box perspective. So if I come home with some harebrained idea, hey, we're going to do this, she'll say, hey, wait a second. She knows my tendency that when I get a thought, I put the pedal to the metal and just run wide open. And she's like, hey, pump the brakes. Let's think through this. Let's make sure we're doing everything the way we need to do it, which is invaluable. She works at Lynchburg General Hospital as an in-house pharmacist. So her perspective from a pharmacy care point is hospital side, whereas I am independent side. And sometimes those paths, we're going to the same destination, but we might just be taking a different route. And it's sometimes nice to see that, to hear it, to say, did you think about this? I did not. Thanks. Let's look at that. Before going to work for the hospital, she worked for the corporate pharmacies. And so when I think of an idea, I'm saying, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. And she'll say, you know, this company used to do this and it didn't work so well. Maybe you should do this instead. So that perspective is invaluable. And it has helped me a lot in the past year, much longer than that, but at least with owning the business, it has helped me a lot. The next resource I would suggest is legal resource. A good lawyer is worth his weight in gold. The first thing I would suggest is ensure your legal team has knowledge or experience in your field. My lawyer is a healthcare lawyer. He represents pharmacists, doctors, Virginia State Pharmacy Association. So he knows the nuances about pharmacy law and what you can and can't do, little things that you may have good intentions. You're trying to take care of your patient, but because you lack the knowledge of this one little rule, you could get yourself in major trouble. So he helps keep me out of trouble, which is a good thing. He helped ensure with the proper transition of the business. I never realized how much paperwork there was with purchasing a pharmacy. It blows away, signing off on a mortgage by 10 times easily. Making sure you have the proper permits with the Board of Pharmacy, with the DEA, making sure your transition is correct with the IRS. All of these snags, if I'd have tried to do it by myself, and I know pharmacists that have done it by themselves and got themselves in trouble. This guy just kept me out, just keeps me on the right path, and that's invaluable. Whenever I think of something, hey, we're going to try this. I want to partner with this provider. I want to do this. I run it by him to say, hey, is there anything that may get me in trouble doing this? And he'll say yay or nay. And if it is a yay, let's do this instead. And that'll keep you out of, the sights of whatever organization's coming after you. So that's, in my opinion, invaluable. The next would be the financial perspective. Again, the same as legal. Make sure whoever you're getting financial advice from is in your field. My CPA represents about 40 pharmacies, independent pharmacies throughout the country. So they are very fluid and they know how things work. Now, I'm going to give you guys a little peek behind the curtain. I'm a Wizard of Oz fan, so I always say pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. But if you were to come in my pharmacy, let me explain how things work. If you were to come in and get let's say a blood pressure medication, and when I bring the bag to the register and ring you up, I say, okay, your copay is $2. Well, I would receive that $2 right then and there, but the insurance company may pay me an additional $5. Well, that payment may take anywhere from 30 to 90 days to come in. So there's a lag between service and payment. And that lag can cause cash flow issues. And if you're not aware of that or not paying attention, that could sneak up on you very quickly. So I'm always talking to them, if not every day, every other day. We need to look at this. We're paying attention to this. So it's just invaluable. They also ensured that I had the proper corporation set up, so that way I could maximize the tax savings, also prevent any liability, heaven forbid something bad happens. So it's, again, knowledge I did not have as a pharmacist. I just didn't know any of this stuff. And it was, might as well have been reading hieroglyphics for myself when they started explaining this stuff to me. I was like, what? Wait, stop. And so having that knowledge being shared with me is just exponentially good. They help me to optimize my business profits. They say, hey, have you tried doing this for your patients versus this? And then they give me financial perspective. So as soon as I hang up with the legal team saying, hey, I've got this idea, can I do it? I call my CPA and say, hey, legal just signed off on this. What are your thoughts? Is it something that I can make money at, or am I going to be wasting money? What do you think? And they will normally point me in the right direction and save me a lot of headache and a lot of just wasted time and money. My last resource is other providers. And when I say that, I not only mean medical providers, but any type of service providers. This applies to all aspects of the business. When I'm dealing with a patient, if patient X comes in here and their blood pressure medication is $400 through their insurance, but there's a medication in the same family, I like to call the provider and say, hey, can I switch them from drug X to drug Y? It'll save them $300. That is a resource that is just invaluable when you talk to the doctors and they say, yes, this is good. Other providers would be my wholesaler, who I get my medications from. They are the ones that help me set up my online store to set that service to where my patients can receive medications, over-the-counter medications, over-the-counter products, have it shipped straight to them. If it wasn't for them, I would have no clue how to do that. They're just huge. I have other providers that help me with packaging, offering the best packaging for my patients, the most, not efficient, but easy to use for patients that normally need some type of packaging. You don't want it to be overly complex, like you're trying to wire up a space shuttle. It just needs to be very simple to where they can do it. They also help me with services that I might be offering. Would it, at this time, do you think it would be, pertinent to offer a chickenpox vaccination clinic? No, not really, because that's not what we're facing at the moment. We're facing COVID. Let's focus on something like that. So talking to them, bouncing ideas off of them. Hey, what do you guys see at the hospital? What is something that I can help the patients with? Can I suggest over the counters or something to that effect? Creating opportunities for the community. We partnered with the sheriff's department 2 years ago and provided Narcan doses to the deputies. So in case they were exposed to some type of opioid and they had an overdose, they would be able to administer this Narcan and prevent that. To me, that's taking care of our community and our community helpers, and that way they can continue to help. We were lucky enough that the Department of Health reached out to us in late 2020 and asked if we would be able to start providing COVID vaccinations. They reached out to the independent pharmacies in the state because we're a little bit smaller, we're more nimble. So we're able to implement things or change things a little bit quicker. And I will tell you, that was an experience. I'm happy to kind of brag on ourselves and say that we've given almost 10,000 vaccines here at our little pharmacy. That would not have been possible without the help of other providers. I have had retired PAs, retired NPs come in. I've had medical students volunteer, pharmacy students volunteer. They all came in to help the community become vaccinated. And so those types of resources, without it, I don't know how we would have managed, but it would have been a lot more difficult. So just one of the things that I keep reminding myself and try to stay grounded is be humble. Never think you're too big to ask a question or ask for help, because that, like I said, I don't know it all. Never will I know it all. And as I tell my kids, every day you learn something new. So making sure you have the right resources is so imperative to succeeding with this. At least it has been for me. And that's everything I have. Any questions?